Hi, welcome again. I'm Terry Wurzbacher with your Doctor Said What, with the URL is your Doctor Said What blog.com. And we're talking about tips for improving your visit to the doctor. One of which I mentioned last week was doctor speak doctor language. Well, have you noticed that internet people use internet language? What did I say to you? The URL. Most people that aren't familiar with the internet don't know what a URL is. They know what an internet address is, and that's what it is. Your Doctor Said What blog. So that was a good tie-over from last week's episode. This week, we're going to talk about doctor-patient communication problems and what you can do about it to improve your doctor-patient visit. First of all, let's talk about being aware of the issues. Well, we talked about the issues last week. And these are the issues that I want you to think about. You've got to know that there's going to be problems. You're not going to a little visit at the grocery store when you see Aunt Sally and you can stand there in line and talk about the kids and what they're going to be doing next week. You have to understand the doctor doesn't have time. He needs to know the information that I'm going to help you present to him, and he wants it out quickly. He's not being mean. He's not being uncaring. He just has to get through the problems with you. This is important for you to understand ahead of time. Once you're aware of that, then you can go ahead and educate yourself. When you educate yourself, you're helping people understand your problem. But what I really want you to work on educating yourself in is how to present your story. When to know that I should start diarying, did I create that word? Journaling your symptoms. That's all in your Doctor Said What, which is an excellent book because I wrote it. When you educate yourself on what your symptoms are and when to start tracking them, then you'll understand how to work to make your visit much more profitable. I want you to practice being a Girl Scout. Well, what does that mean? What it means is be prepared. That's what every Girl Scout is. I'm not sure I ever did a good job at that as a Girl Scout, but I try to do that as a patient. When I say be prepared, what does that mean? That leads us into the next one, and I'll spend most of the time on that today, which is you should write everything down. Okay, so when I get a sore throat, should I start writing my symptoms down? Well, that's up to you. It depends on how you feel. If you feel like you just have a bad cold, sure, you can avoid that, but you might want to do it because you don't know if that bad cold is going to turn into pneumonia, if it's going to be an abscess in your throat because your throat is sore. In my opinion, you've got a calendar. Most people have calendars. You can even probably do it on your iPhone now. You start writing when you had your symptoms and what they were. And this is important for things like belly pain. People go, oh, I just have a stomach ache. And then the next day it's I just have another stomach ache or it still hurts. And then you don't know if the pain is moved from one place because your stomach hurts. Try to be specific. And you're going to end up, perhaps, if you wait a couple of weeks, with all of these things written down in this long War and Peace type journal. But what we'll be having you do is to go through that journal and extract the important points. If I can't tell you the number of people that come in and I'll say, well, okay, when did this start bothering you? I'm not really sure. Well, okay, that makes a big difference to me. Has it been a day? Has it been a week? Has it been a month? So what does that matter to the doctor? The length of time something's been bothering you and the point where you are now medically after I examine you and get tests has a lot to do with being able to correlate what kind of illness you have. And that matters with surgeons and general practice, all sorts of things like that. How long have you had this rash? I can tell you my knee started bothering me last week. And if I didn't write that down, probably by the time, if I have to go to the doctor, I won't be able to remember everything that happened. And that's important with knee things. I don't remember an injury, but I do remember a lot of work on it last week as I had to go on a long trip, etc., etc. If I don't write these things down now while I remember them, I'm not going to remember them when I come to tell the doctor. Well, why does that matter? in my knee, for instance, it might make the difference between figuring out it's a meniscal tear, the cartilage, or is it one of the ligaments that's messed up, or is it just because I'm old and fat? I mean, there's lots of different things, but you got to write down your symptoms, the chronology of the symptoms, and then most importantly that we talked about last week, your questions. If you got a family, you know they're going to have questions. They may not ask you, but sit down and say, all right, what questions should I ask the doctor? Write them all down, and then you can go and distill that package later. I know you're thinking, well, I feel like crud. Why would I want to spend time writing this down? Try it once, and you'll never forget to do it again. This is Terry Wurzbacher with your Doctor Said What. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us.